Hi friends, welcome to Line Around Sewing. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a smiley face embroidery on Hatch Embroidery. We're going to start at the opening page of Hatch Embroidery. I am doing Hatch Embroidery 3. I'm doing the Digitizer. Now if you need to start and open a new file, you're going to go over here to the left to File, and you're going to go New Blank Design. And then if you already have some artwork saved to your computer that you want, whether it's a Google image or something you've drawn up yourself, you're going to go up here to Artwork and you're going to pick your image that you want to trace, basically, that you're going to use to go off of for your embroidery. So I drew this cute little blue smiley face, and with digitizing I like to start at the back and work my way forward. So for this, we're gonna start with the blue circle, and there's a couple different ways that you can do this. The easiest being over on your toolboxes or your toolbar, and you have all these different things. We're gonna go to Digitize. This is the one that I use the most. This is you doing most of the work. Circle and oval. And I like to kind of click in the middle, left click, and it's going to drag a circle perimeter. And then you left click again when you like the diameter of it. And then now you're going to work from the other side. And you can do this by dragging your mouse, or you can also just press enter before you click to give you a perfect circle. So as you can see now over here, we have our red circle in our sequence bar. And automatically it's going to do red thread. If you want to change it, you have all your threads you can pick from down here. Let's pick a nice blue. And you can also left click to move your circle. If you need to make this bigger, if it's not quite as big as you want, you can drag one of these corners at the black dot, and that will stretch it. You can also go up here to the top where it says width and height, and you can change your dimensions up here. If you don't want it to be a perfect circle, you can unlock this. This is the proportional scaling. That way it stays a perfect circle or a perfect square. But we'll keep that locked because we do want a perfect circle. Now, right now, it's going to automatically do the tatami stitch over here under Object Properties, Stitch Type. This is going to stitch tatami. That's what I do the most if I'm doing just a base embroidery stitch of a big area. You can also do satin. As you can see, it's going to give it more texture. It's going to be more raised. And then there's also a raised satin, which is kind of going to give it that beveled edge around it. So we'll do tatami because that's the simplest and the easiest as of right now to stitch out. And we're not going to do anything crazy with the different spacing and overlay, underlay, pull compensation. We're just going to go off the basics right now. Then if you have more questions, we will address those later, or you can leave them in the comments. So right now, this is our base embroidery. This would be really good as like a patch. So if you want to look behind this again, because we can't see the eyes currently, you can right click and we can hide selected. So now that's going to hide our blue circle. You can see these little dashes over here. That's showing that it's hidden. Now we can focus on the eyes. Again, I said with the circle, you could do it where you use the circle tool, but we're going to do digitize closed shape. This is going to be a little bit more hands-on. I don't usually do this with circles, but I'm going to show you how to digitize a closed shape so that you can use it for your other projects. I am going to scroll in a little bit. I'm just using my wheel on my mouse to scroll. And we are going to start on the edge of our eye, and we're going to right click when we're ready. Once we have digitize closed shape clicked, we're going to right click. So right click is going to create a node. And when we right click, it's going to create a curved node. See how it curved around the line? So we're just going to go around here and follow the outline of the curve. And just right click where we want to be. You don't really need a whole lot since it's just a basic circle, but if you're doing a more intricate design, you might need a lot of nodes. So once we get almost to the end, we can go ahead and click enter, and it's gonna finish that circle out for us. And again, we can click on it and we can change it to black thread. And that's digitizing a closed shape with curved nodes. Now, if we want to duplicate this eye so that it's exactly the same size, you can right click and come over here to duplicate. Now, of course, there are keys, hotkeys that you can use, but you can get the hang of that on your own. I still don't use hotkeys, only use them for like a few things. So duplicate, it's gonna create us another eyeball, and then we can drag it over here. Now, if you wanna make sure that these are both on the same like x-axis so that they are, one's not higher than the other, you can check the position, the Y position, actually, I said X, but the Y position is the one that you want to look at. So we have 0.915 and we have 0.911. So we're going to go ahead and just change this one up here on position Y to 0.915 and click enter. And it moved it just a little bit. Again, with these eyes, you can change them if you want them more satin so that they're more raised. You can change that as well. Now for the smile, we're going to digitize open shape. And again, this is a curve, so we're going to right click on the edge and we are just going to trace this line. And then when we're done, we can press enter. And you can see that I kind of got over the edge. That could be fine, but if I wanted to tweak it a little bit, say it's not perfect, it's kind of crooked or whatever, I can click on the smile again on the right hand side, and I can go up here to reshape. And that's going to give me control of these little nodes, if you can see them. So now I can drag this one down if I want it to cover that black more, if I want it to be this exact shape that I'm looking for. And that looks pretty good. This is also where you can, if like say you forgot to make this a little bit longer, this is also where you can drag your node out longer. Or if you're like, actually I want this to be a more drastic smile, you can drag your nodes down. You can also add nodes here. So again, right click is going to add another curved like that. And then what we haven't talked about yet is when you left click on digitizing your own shape, it's going to create a straight, like a point node. So now you can see it made a box instead of a circle. This is going to give us more of a point like that. So if you're going around and doing a star or a square, this is where you're going to put your point nodes. And if I'm like, I want to do another one, we can do it here. So this is creating our kind of our straight edges. So if you wanted it to be a straight line, you would do 2 left clicks to give you a straight node. But if you decide, oh wait, I need this to curve in a little bit, you can come in the middle, put a curved node, and that's going to give you a curve. And sometimes you can accidentally click and make nodes like I just did. If that happens, just click the undo button. So yeah, that's just an example. And if you decide, actually, this is not what I wanted, I want to start over. You see that it has the dashed edges. This means we're working with the nodes currently. If you go back up here to select, it's going to make it a solid line, and now you can delete, you can move it, you can duplicate, whatever you need to do with that design. So I'm going to go ahead, and if you need to delete, we're going to right click and click delete. You can also use the delete key. And we're going to go back to digitized open shape and do those curved nodes again. Again, open shape means you're basically just doing lines. Your nodes aren't going to come back and touch each other. It's just lines, or if you're leaving it open to make a plush or something, this is what you would do. Otherwise, it's going to try to close your project. All right, back to the smile. Right now it is red. We're going to change that to black. And we have a couple of stitch options. They're a little bit different than doing the fill option we're doing as an outline. So you can do single, you can do triple run. This means it's going to go over it 3 times. There's a couple of fun designs. For this one, we're going to look at the satin stitch. That's going to make it really thick, and it's going to show up better on our embroidery. But if you're looking and you think this is too thick, that's too big of a thickness, under there, under the satin stitch, you have a couple of stitch settings. The one that says width is where you can change it. So you can use these little arrow keys, or you can backspace and type in, that was 98. Let's see what 80 looks like, and then press enter. Yeah, it makes it a little thinner. All right, so we have both of our eyes and our mouth. I'm gonna go ahead and bring our layer back, our blue background. So I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna right click and unhide selected. So now you can see it's got that blue and our 2 eyes. And if you want, you can view it in 2 different modes. You can view a true view, which is the one I like to work with, where you can actually see the stitches and it shows you the direction of the stitches. Or you can also look in it more of an embroidery software standpoint. So once we have our design done, I like to just delete the artwork so that I can see the order that everything is going to stitch in. Right now it's going to stitch our blue circle as number 1, and then it's going to go to the left eye if you're looking at it and stitch it, and then it's going to go to the right eye, stitch number 3, and it's going to stitch the mouth last. But let's say you wanted to stitch the mouth first. All you got to do is make sure you got the solid black box and drag it to the position you want. So if we want it to do the mouth first in black after the blue circle, we can drag it up there. Now it's going to do mouth, then eye, and then the other eye. And this goes the same if you need to stitch something, a last layer on top. You can drag it all the way to the bottom. Now you can see it's going to stitch the black first and then stitch the blue, so you're not going to be able to see the black. But that's just an example. Some other things that you might need to know for future embroidery are the stitch overlapping. So like right here, you can see it kind of is a different color, and there's like a line that cuts through the top of the blue circle. If you come up here to reshape, you can see you have these green and red boxes and like an X or a plus sign. This is where it's going to start stitching and like stop stitching. The red is the stop, green is the start. And you can see there's a little hand. So you can drag these. If you decide you're not going to like that it might have this weird layer at the top, you can move these around and it's going to change where the start and stop point is. So see how that line kind of went away? That means it's going to stop more up here. And so it's not going to create that weird line potentially if your threads overlap. Or if you're working with stretchy fabric, it's not going to push all the thread, it's not going to push all the material to one point and make a big gap there. And then down here, this orange dots, these are the angle of the stitches. So sometimes when you're working with knit fabrics or things like beanies, you might need to change the stitch direction so that it's not stitching in the groove of your knit. You don't want it to get lost in the stretch of your fabric or the knit of your fabric. So if your knit is going vertical, you might want your stitches going horizontal. And that's just something that you can play with to get exactly right. If you're working with like fleece, usually you won't have a lot of problem with the direction. And sometimes different threads that you use, depending on what direction it stitches, it can have like a glossy effect or change the color. If you need to change the direction, you can just turn this angle and it's just going to change the stitches. As you can see, this is going vertical, and now the line for the start and stop is like right through the middle. So I would move my start and stop around if this is what I was going for. But you could do things like this if you were wanting to do one half of like a smiley face red and the other half blue. You might want to do vertical stitches on both colors so that they're going the same direction. We're just going to move it back. And again, if you want to change to the eyes, make sure you're on reshape, and it has the same little start, stop, and the angle. So right now this is going to stitch the blue, and on top of it is going to stitch the black. It might make it really thick on embroidery thread. If you're doing this as a small embroidery patch, it'll be fine to stitch on top, but you might want to go opposite directions so that it stitches a little bit better. So we might want to turn the eyes vertical. Just to give them a little bit more depth and distance. Now there are other ways that you can digitize holes if you don't want to have the stitch on top of the other stitches. If you don't want all the depth of all the stitches, or if you don't think your machine can handle the stitches on top of stitches, there's a way you can digitize a hole so that it will leave a gap. So let's look at these eyes, and let's say we want like a white pupil. You can click on the eye and then click Digitize Hole, and then you can make your hole inside of here. Click enter twice, and that's going to create a hole. It's not going to give you an embroidery piece, it's just going to create a hole for you. And now you can also, of course, reshape this hole by going to the reshape tool and clicking on the one. And you can change the shape of this. So let me do that one more time, because I know that was kind of fast. So we're going to go to Digitize Hole again. We're going to click on our eye or our project that we want to create a hole in. Digitize Hole, and we are going to either right click or left click to create our nodes. I'm going to right click to make the curved nodes, because we're going to add a circle pupil. And when we're done, we're going to click hit enter once and twice so that it gives us that hole. And it's like just cutting out the embroidery basically. And then once you get it how you want it, you can create another circle to go in that hole. So let's go ahead and make our pupil. We're going to go back to the circle tool just so you guys can see it again, and it'll be easier. And I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger than the circle that is there, because we want to make sure we fill that whole hole. We want to make sure we fill that entire hole. So you might have a little bit of overlap in the thread, but that's going to help create, that's going to help make sure that the gap is full. And there's our little pupil. Now, we want to make sure our two eyes are the same again, right? So what I'm going to do, instead of cutting a hole in this one and it being different, I'm going to left click on the pupil, and I'm going to hold Control on my keypad, and I'm going to click on the other eye as well, the eye that has the hole in it. And then we're going to right click and duplicate. And now that's going to duplicate the exact two embroidery pieces. And we can drag this over here as one. And I can go up here and I can delete that solid black circle. Now there's a couple of ways I can click over here and use the control and move it as one, or you can also, you can go over here to the edge of your project and highlight, and whatever is in there is going to get highlighted. That might not work though if you have a lot of little designs over here, so it might be easier to just come over here and click control on all the pieces that you want to move. All right, again, I'm gonna check the position. That's 0.938. This one is I'm gonna do 0.938. That's gonna move it up a little bit. And say you're like, oh, this, you know, these pupils, I want them turned a little bit more. We can rotate them by highlighting, and up here you have some rotation options. You can do 15 degrees either way, or you can do your own. Like say you're like, I want to do 30. And as you can see, it's gonna rotate it to the left. If you want it to rotate to the right, you can do a negative degrees. So if we wanted to go back to where it was, we can go negative 30, and it's gonna rotate it back the other way. So that's just a quick example. There's also the mirror options where you can flip them on the X or Y axis if you need it to be like upside down. And I do think I'm gonna rotate both of these 15 degrees just to give them more looking off to the side. And now you see we've messed up our sequence, or we've changed our sequence. So to make sure, this is one of the things you want to check right before you are finishing up and saving your file. You want to make sure the background is the one that you want, and then you want to make sure that it's stitching most of the same colors together. You don't want to go back and forth between white and black unless you need to. So we're gonna put our two black eyes together, which then puts our two white pupils together. And this is just always good to check right before you save your file. We're gonna go blue, mouth, two eyes, and then two pupils. And it's gonna do those jumps, and it's gonna leave those stitches that we can trim as well. And then one other thing I like to do right before I'm done is I like to highlight the whole thing, make sure that I have all of the pieces, and it'll show up in like purple if you have everything, or it'll show what you have in purple that you've grabbed. And I like to check the width and the height, because sometimes your hoops only do 4x4 or 5x7. And if we want this to be just a little patch, like say 3 inches, or right now it's like showing 2.5, you want to make sure it's going to stitch that. You don't want to accidentally stitch a 4-inch patch when you're needing a 2.5-inch patch. So we can go up here, and again, this proportional scaling is locked. So no matter what I change this to, it's going to make it even throughout the board. And we're just going to go down to 2.5. That's a pretty good size. And sometimes I like to do smaller first to not waste as much thread if I'm not sure about a certain design. And that's it. If you guys have any questions about digitizing, or if there's anything else that you would like to see, please let me know and leave a comment below. I'm gonna make another video talking about how to save the file and how to transfer it to your embroidery machine, and also how it stitches out and if there's anything I would change. So definitely check out that video, and again, if there's anything else that you guys would like to see, just let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye!